thing. We're on YouTube, live stream, tweet it out. And we're gonna do this. Bear with me. I'm gonna go on Facebook. .com/Malice official post. Okay. Great. Public, it's good. We should have people here in a second. And we don't. That is odd. Shit, I opened the wrong window. Okay, why is no one here? Am I missing something? Public. Huh. Okay. Okay, some people are getting here. Give me a second. Good times. Good times. Whew. Saturday night. I had a fun party yesterday. We played Quiplash, which I enjoy immensely. I hate that the number of people watching is not dynamic. There's a lag and different people see different things. It's really kind of annoying. So it's telling me there's only 9, but it's obviously more than 9. So I'm just going to give people a second to get here. We're going to talk about Randolph Bourne, who's a really cool historical figure who I really enjoy, who hasn't gotten his due. So, okay, just give me one more minute. Finish my drink. Yeah, I think I'm going to be off the monster. I know that's my thing. I loved it. I had one a day for years, but I don't know what's happened recently, but yeah, it's jittery, making me jittery and not in a good way. It used to make me like buzzed in a good way. I'm going full boomer today. I'm going full boomer today. All right, core power is done. We have the Kool-Aid. I eat the same thing every day, so it's very odd for me that, you know, I tried to figure out where it's coming from, and then I realized I'm like, is it the monster? Because one day I was fine, and because I was having these adrenaline spikes, and it was very high, very intense, and I thought, okay, maybe it's something going on, you know, in your personal life, whatever. And then one morning I woke up and I was fine, and I'm like, okay, it went away, and then I had the monster and it came back. I'm like, wait a minute, that was very, very odd to have it be that quick and that much of a psychological correlation. And then I had one today, and it didn't go there, but it went in that direction. I'm like, oh man. So, yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna give people one more minute to get to 100, and then we're gonna talk about Randolph Bourne. Oh, I've been having. Let's talk about Twitter. I mean, let's talk about what's going on Twitter. I've been having. I promised for you guys who have been following me for a while. Oh shit, cops, be cool, be cool, be cool. We're fine, officers. Gotta hate them. Okay, so I promised to you guys, and thanks to all the support with the super chats, with Patreon and Twitter, that I am not going to rein it in. that I will use my Twitter powers as much as possible to mock and denigrate horrible, evil people who deserve mocking and denigrating, who only get over because they have this facade of respectability and decency when in fact they are reprehensible, vile, evil people. And I said this is only going to get better as my audience increases in size, and that's absolutely the case. And I think I can say honestly that the data has borne me out, the results have borne me out, and I'm just getting bigger and bigger fish and upsetting bigger and bigger people, and that is very healthy, and it's something I hope we all can enjoy and appreciate. These awful, 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 awful people not getting, getting their, put in their place, so to speak. Okay, so to speak. That was not a Hopper reference. Let's talk about Randolph Bourne. So, by the way, as some of you know, the right behaves morally and thinks practically. The left behaves practically and thinks morally. I don't agree with that whatsoever. I don't think the left behaves practically at all, often. That's nonsensical. I don't think the right behaves morally at all. I wouldn't call Trump an exemplar of morality. He's certainly on the right. I think there's a great deal of immorality on the right. I don't think the right thinks practically. The right thinks in terms of power. No, it doesn't. You're saying the right behaves morally and thinks practically, and to clarify, practical equals power. The right does not think in terms of power. The left thinks in terms of power. The right, and by the way, all of those four quadrants are there. There are going to be right-wingers who behave immorally and who behave morally, because the right is not a monolith, as you acknowledge by your parentheses. And there's plenty of leftists who behave practically, and there's plenty of leftists who behave impractically, and there's plenty of leftists who behave morally, think morally, and there's plenty of leftists who think immorally. And in fact, that grid might be a great subdivision for the right and the left and the different groups within them. There is a very profound difference, and I discuss this in my book, between someone who's like, hey, we need a welfare state because this is their thinking. I don't want to see people starving in my society. We need a safety net. This is just a basic thing, so you don't have to worry about food. That's very different from, I want to make sure everyone's diet is a function of the state. These are or everyone's education is a function of the state for the sake of it being a function of the state. These are very different approaches, and both are, broadly leftist. Thank you, Dave. It is appreciated. Okay, so, I drink 2 bangs a day. Pray for me, Michael Malice. If I pray, when I pray for people, they get cancer. So is that really what you want? Because I'll do it, but you're gonna have the cancer. So I mean, all right. Sorry, Roddy. You're gonna have the cancer now, and it's not gonna be one of those melanomas. It's gonna be a big one. Okay, so here's something else that I just realized this week. We're gonna get to Randolph Bourne. I promise. I promise. Here's something I'm a smart person. Smart people are often very ignorant. All smart people are ignorant of huge spheres of knowledge. There's so much knowledge, there's so much intelligence, that's not an issue. But it's also fascinating that when I get these epiphanies, and I just had an epiphany this week, and it's this. And sometimes you put 2 and 2 together, and you're like, oh shit! How did you not notice this earlier? It is since Obama. It's really funny because under Obama, he's the social media president. They mine data to get him elected. He's so hip and clever. And now Trump tweets his way to the presidency. Social media is destroying America. How do we... it's hilarious. So, happy 3rd birthday to that amazing clip from Kennedy. If you look at that tweet I sent, Benny Big Wheel, who's one of my favorite followers, who's always hilarious, tagged Steven Sigmund. And it's like, hey, Steven, you still triggered? And Steven was like, no, I'm not. Are you still an asshole? So go down that thread. It's really, 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 really funny. Um, I, I remember that episode very, very well because I left worried that I was going to get in shit. And I left from Fox, and I left worried I was going to get in shit from the internet. And that was maybe one of the moments I realized, oh, my savagery is going to be rewarded. Not just in terms of people actually understand it for what it is and appreciate it. So it was really a great moment for me. I really enjoyed that episode. Here's my big epiphany that I had this week. And I'll tell you how I came to the epiphany. And you're going to realize this is your epiphany. This is very known. It's one thing to know it. It's to know something. It's another thing to see that something implemented and made real. To wit. Sometimes I'll have a tweet that is just a throwaway or I don't think is particularly smart or clever or well written, and it will get what I would perceive to be disproportionate engagement. And I have a buddy named Cole who I adore in LA, and we had different Twitter strategies, and you know, his Twitter is failing badly, and he's like I realized watching what you do, and this was not a damning by faint praise, it's true. He goes, I try to carefully craft every tweet. He's like, you just toss out everything, and some of it sticks and some of it doesn't, and that is exactly my approach. Thankfully, one of my skills, very few, is that I'm pretty quick. So being quick, a lot of times, you know, I'll have some quality in between all the crap. You got to wade through it, whatever. And I don't remember what set this off. Oh, I think it's very important and useful that when someone is doing badly in politics, someone who you don't like, to demoralize them and their people as much as possible, to make it to pour salt in the wound, to frustrate them, to make them ask themselves, what am I doing this for? Because a lot of times when you are part of something, a project that doesn't succeed, you especially if it's a group, right? You all rally. You're like, well, at least we made this change. Blah, 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 blah. I learned some experience. My goal is when it's someone who's a bad person is to realize you wasted your time. You've made your life worse because now you look like a loser. And there are people who actively and consciously and correctly view you as the enemy of decency. So that's kind of my mindset going in. So Julian Castro, as I was tweeting out earlier this week, I'm very methodical about following who's making the debates and who's not. We are transitioning right before our eyes into basically politics becoming playoffs. Making the debates was not an issue prior to 2016. Everyone made the debates. Then they had to split the debates, right? And then they had to be like, all right, we're not splitting them, but we're going to have increasingly difficult criteria. So it's very much become sports-like in its application, because if you think about running for president, the costs are so low, and and you're not paying the costs. Your donors are. But the upside is so high, because now on my resume, I will always say, presidential candidate, debated with Joe Biden, debated with Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. These are huge, huge, huge credentials for me as a lobbyist, as someone who gives talks. You know, it's just great for your brand, right? Because you could say these things with a straight face. So Julian Castro, and I've covered this on Nightshade, has no business running for president from a resume perspective. He was the former mayor of San Antonio. I don't know what the population of San Antonio is. I'm sure it's tiny. No one has ever gone from mayor to president. Maybe not. San Antonio is not tiny, but it's not a state. And other than that, he was HUD secretary, Housing and Urban Development secretary. Who cares? This is not a particularly prominent or political department. Ben Carson, who many of you remember, was a laughingstock in many ways in the 2016 campaign, is the head of HUD, and I was expecting the corporate press to weekly have Ben Carson gaffes, and he's vanished. I have not heard his name in years, like at all, at all, at all, at all. So I saw earlier this week that, and I tweeted this out on Sunday or Monday, that Julian Castro is not going to make the next debate because he needed to get to like 2% in 4 polls, and as of by Tuesday or by Wednesday, and as of Sunday he had 0 out of 4. So there was no way he's getting 4. So the second he didn't make the debates, I'm sure most of you saw this, I tweeted at him, and I am not a fan of people who are just aggressive for the sake of being aggressive on Twitter. I don't think there's any creativity to it. There can be, but there often isn't. You see this especially with who was the guy who was in Beauty and the Beast, whatever his name is, that Ron Perlman tweeting at Trump, and it's just vitriol, but it's not even trying to be witty, and it's not hard to be witty at Trump's expense. It's like, oh, you're a fucking asshole. I can't wait till you're out of office. Blah blah. You dumb shit. You don't even know what you're getting yourself into. It's like, okay, great. That this is fine. So I had a tweet in that vein. It was not clever, by my standards certainly. It was just meant to be very demoralizing and aggressive. And that's not my usual style, but when it comes to these people who are complete villains, I am absolutely more than happy to do that once in a while. Just go up and just give him the punch in the face. So I tweeted him, hey, Julian Castro, sorry you didn't make the next debate. Quick question. Does Officer Harris, I think I called her Officer Harris or Kamala Harris, smell more like ham or more like bacon? And since he was the one, for those of you who might remember, in the debates who, for no reason, just started speaking Spanish. For a reason. He's obviously pandering. I tweeted, oh, I forgot you like the pandering stuff. Then I put the upside down question mark. And I said, do you think does Kamala Harris smell more like pork or more like bacon or ham or bacon, whatever it was? And here was my big epiphany. My big epiphany is, and this is, it's not news, but it's interesting to see it play out in real life. All of these candidates have now, if politics has become sports, then thanks for going Myles Garrett on these people. I don't know what that is, but you are welcome. My epiphany was, it's very understood, even by the layman, that social media has become extremely important for presidential candidates and politicians in general. And social media is also a great mechanism for a candidate who does not have establishment, visibility, or credentials to build their name. A good example of this, Bernie did it this way. His social media game was very solid last time. Tulsi is doing a good job of it this way. I don't know no one else off my head. Obviously Trump, was an example of this as well, but he was a known name as a personality before, other than social media in 2016. So what I realized is that all of these people have, this is not the realization, I'm getting to the realization. They have social media goons. And those social media goons' job is to understand, is to monitor what's going on about their candidate. And Hillary said this explicitly, that in 2016, she had a team who were there to combat misinformation on social media. Very smart. So the second I tweet that out, and here's the other thing. Whenever I hit Kamala Harris, I often also at Ian Sams, who is her press secretary. Ian Sams has, I think, 28,000 Twitter followers. I've got 80. So when I hit him, I know his mentions are being filled with my bullshit, and this is, maybe I'm muted, but it's certainly not. But although I think if he was responsible, he shouldn't mute people because his job is to look through all the shit, so she'd have to deal with it. And it's not, even if he's just rolling his eyes, he can't like it that, or he can, I don't know him, that the person he's supporting, and I'm sure genuinely believes would be a great president, and is at least a very good person, is being denigrated in the most vile ways, which I try to go as low as possible with her because I think she's just absolute pig woman. Love your books, and I'd love if you streamed more. I intend to. Have you commented on Nick Fuentes' Groyper Civil War with Conservative Inc.? If not, could you? That is such a can of worms. I see. Jesus Christ. Off the top of my head, I think this in many ways has been I'm not a conservative. That's the thing that I love, is that when people on there is this idea that people are like, oh, you're being a bad conservative. Yeah, I'm not a conservative in any way. I'm not a conservative anyway. I make this clear repeatedly, but people try to throw that label on me. There is a binary, and I loathe, and most of you don't think this way, I loathe binary thinking. There is this binary that has developed, I think, on the right, where you're either Charlie Kirk or you're Nick Fuentes, right? So you're either, and I'm going to go by the caricatures. You're either totally bought Agent of Israel, furthering degeneracy over here, or you're basically a Nazi and are evil and a loser. Like, these are the two views. I don't think either of those capture any sort. Thank you, NT. I don't think either of those capture any sort of nuance. I've obviously covered this very what do you call it? Heavily in my book. Thank you, NT. And I'm not big on. I'm big on ideas, not on personalities. I don't beef with people. So I think it's much more about. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm getting a beating. Thank you, sir. May I have another? I'm so much more interested in ideas than in personalities. So it's. I don't really have a. And the other thing that's really funny for me, you're so good. What I really appreciate is I've covered this, I think, on another stream. Is when you have any group, you're going to have a bell curve of population. You're going to have smart people. You're going to have stupid people. You're going to have people in the middle. And I try to explain this in the book when I was on doing research. And I was on Stormfront. And they were arguing about Murray Rothbard, who was, the father of anarcho-capitalism. And the Nazis were arguing about him, and one says, fine, this is Stormfront, by the way, this isn't 4chan. One Nazi says, here's finally a Jew I like. And that's the left-wing position in this context. And the right-wing guy, exclusion, says, are you kidding me? What website are you on? There's not one good one. And then you have the moderate, who said, look, there are a few who are great people, who are not Zionists, but since they're so few and far between, it's not worth sorting the wheat from the chaff. So, anyway, dealing with the Groypers, it's very funny to me when you have the ones who are like, oh, we got a Jew. Oh, I'm gonna call him a Jew. And the funniest part is, this is one of the few times I have to bite my tongue. Right now on my Facebook, my profile pic is me showing my nephew the oven. Literally right now. And I could throw it in their face being like, if you think a Holocaust joke is gonna upset me, like, this disproves it. But I don't want to engage because I don't need to prove this person anything. And it's also funny when the other Groypers jump in and they're like, dude, you got the wrong guy. Like, this is not what you're thinking. So it's very it's just funny to watch. There is I think I think there's a little bit of the pro wrestling aspect to it. But I mean, I guess that's kind of my 2 cents about this. Regular Joe, nothing. Anyway, going back to my epiphany. Okay, so I tweet that out, the Julian Castro thing. We are going to get to Randolph Bourne. This is not a troll. And in seconds, his director of communication, what's the guy's title? I don't remember. Sawyer Hackett. He blocked me. He replies and he goes, "Hey, @Jack, is this okay with you?" And I'm thinking to myself, you're so good. Thank you, Philip. Maybe it's because I read Robert Greene. I don't know. But to me, maybe this is my Russian upbringing. You don't enter antagonism. Philip, you're funny. You don't start antagonism with a show of weakness. That is, if you had any self-awareness, you'd be embarrassed. And if you don't, it's still terrible. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I'm like, you're Julian Castro's press secretary, or whatever the title was, director of public relations, and you're showing publicly that you don't have the numbers, phone number, contact info, email of anyone at Twitter. You have to @Jack like every boomer who's upset with some tweet. I couldn't believe... And the thing is, if your job is to manage Julian Castro's public relations, and I'm hiring you for a job, whatever your political positions are, I'm like, okay, hey, I'm a candidate. I need you for this job. How would you handle if some troll was trolling me and all his troll buddies are blowing my mentions? Well, I would @Jack. Like, that's your response? Michael can't be racist because he's a person of color. Maliche, yeah. And it's like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I'm like, that is so sad. I mean, of all the tactics to do, like, showing your weakness is the worst one. Then someone else, I don't remember who guy's name, Spencer for Texas, I don't know who he is, which is not a reflection on his fame, it's just a reflection of my ignorance. And he's like, what is wrong with you? And I wrote back, I have fetal alcohol syndrome. And I said that once on Red Eye and Fox. It was a lot of fun. It was an ad lib, and I just had it immediately. I was very quick about it. And he writes back, hey, @verified, can you believe this? I'm like, wait a minute. Maybe Twitter safety, verified? What, am I going to be unverified because I say I have fetal alcohol syndrome? Like, and I was like, so you're even further proving that you have no one that you can empower to do this. And I called him on it. I said, look, your job is to protect your candidate. And you're demonstrating publicly that all you can do is tweet @Jack and @verified. What campaign do you plan to join to further help run into the ground? It was like, it's like you are weak and ineffectual. And I pointed out, I go, if his social media game was better, he could have made the next debate, which is indisputably true. So I was like, holy, and Don Cheadle, it was amazing. I don't understand this. I mean, this shows how so many people profoundly lack empathy. What they'll do is, he took my tweet, and he quote tweeted it with my picture. At the very least, if I have chosen something, or you or anyone else, as their profile picture, I perceive it to be a good picture of myself. I might look like an asshole, I might look ugly, I might look disgusting, whatever. I don't have that perception because from my perspective, it is the best picture of me or most representative picture of me. It's not going to land on me. It might get other people to make fun of me, but I will be oblivious to that. So, and I'm like, okay. And all you're doing is you made it to a meme. Here's my quote, fully quoted, with my big picture next to it. Thank you. Like, it's not even a commentary, not like you're disgusting. I mean, this is pathetic. I mean, there's so many things you could say. I'm like, oh, I'm going to quote you and have a picture next to it. That's a meme. You see this with Einstein. You see this with every celebrity who's dead celebrity. You have their quote and you have their picture. That's what it's done. What are you doing? They say the left can't meme, but this is they can. They're making a meme quote. It was very, very funny and very, very odd. And I raised some good money for it that I'm sitting in my pocket and I don't know what to waste it on, but we'll figure it out. Okay, now we're going to talk on Randolph Bourne. Random question. Have you seen Boris Johnson trolling a journalist about model buses? I have not. He's very, very funny. Surprisingly funny. And I think he's going to do very well in this next election if the polls currently, what do you call it, are borne out. Perfect segue. Okay, so let's talk about Randolph Bourne. Randolph Bourne is for sporting such a dashing profile pic. Joe Rogan took that photo. I like that picture. It's hard to get a good picture of me. So Randolph Bourne is what I was with friends of mine a couple months ago. Quick yes or no on a handmade leather DOP kit. The fuck's a DOP kit? I'm gonna look up what that is. DOP kit? Fuck, you're talking to a Jewish person. DOP kit, that's a real word. Oh, a toiletry bag. Monogrammed. No. Because you want to have that, if something is nice, you want to be able to pass it on to people. Leather ages very, very well. No, you don't want a monogram. Do I have any leather? No, I don't. Okay. So, I'm looking up when he was born. Randolph Bourne. Okay, he's born in 1886. Okay. If you look him up on the internet, there's like only 3 photos of him around. He was deformed. When he was born, they used the forceps on his head, so his head was like pointy, and like one of his ears was like over here. And he was never even 5 feet tall, and he was hunchbacked, and he had to wear a cape, and he was all like kind of all fucked up looking. He was also brilliant, and he went to Columbia. And he made a name for himself as an intellectual and a writer at a very young age. In many ways, he was the predecessor of a lot of these current like shitlibs who write for these horrible blogs, right? So, he would just comment on issues of the day, book reviews, so on and so forth. And he was one of the. So, why is Judge Knapp going after the Don so much? I don't know. I think it probably, I'm sure some of it is personal, and they were buddies, and then Trump went after him in very personal ways. So I don't know. I don't know if there's anything, and frankly, from what I know, I know a lot of people who know Judge Knapp. I don't think he's coming from a place of dishonesty. When he says something, I tend to listen. I don't think it's just vindictive or anything like that. Anyway, so Herbert Crowley is an important historical figure. Herbert Crowley wrote a book on the New Nationalism, and Teddy Roosevelt, who was like the first, in many ways, progressive president, used that as its model. And the premise of the New Nationalism, and he said he combined the best of Jefferson, the best of Hamilton, and he made an abomination, was the premise that if the Constitution doesn't, just because the Constitution doesn't allow you to say something, to do something, you still have the power to do it. It basically ignores the 10th Amendment completely. And Teddy Roosevelt used this to make the federal government much more aggressive in its actions and its views. and so on and so forth. And Herbert Crowley was one of the founders of the Atlantic, which still exists today. And Randolph Bourne was, I think, one of the first, like one of the founding writers on the Atlantic. I'm sure I'm getting a little this wrong, but you know, he worked there. And he was known for two minor things and one very important thing. He wrote a book called Youth and Life, which came out in 1913. And Youth and Life was considered, and to this day, like the first book which discusses youth as its own unique time period. Like it was only in the 1950s that the idea of a teenager kind of as its own kind of segment came into being, as you know, media expanded and people had more and more segmented times in their lives. The premise of being young and what that meant when more and more people started going to college, and when the Industrial Revolution had kicked in, so more and more people were not working with their hands and were becoming intellectuals, this became this kind of new thing. And he was the first to kind of write about it. So that's one thing he's known for. The other thing he's known for is his essay called like The Handicaps by one of the Handicaps, that's from Family Guy. The Handicap by one of them, which he wrote about, look, because back then, you know, was so much more waspy. You know, when someone was all deformed or handicapped, you basically threw them in the attic and locked up. You know, you locked up in the attic, threw away the key, because it's like, all right, I don't know what to do with this person, this thing. You don't talk about it, right? And he was like, look, I'm fucked up. Not my fault. I cannot help the fact that I was born fucked up. I have a lot to offer. I'm an intellectual. I'm you know, I have my issues, my views, and don't pretend I don't exist. And that was a big, and that essay is still very much, you know, cited and very well regarded. Hey, Michael, I always learn interesting facts from you. Ever thought on going on a game show? Yeah, I was on Cash Cab. Come on. Goggle it. Michael Malice Cash Cab. And I was good on that Cash Cab. But the most important thing Randolph Bourne was known for, and this is just absolutely fascinating, as, you know, 1916, 1917, as America was thinking of entering the Great War, he, as a strident progressive, was aghast. And he's like, wait a minute. Why are we fighting on behalf of this monarchy against this monarchy? This is insanity. And the claim that was being made that this is the war to end war. At the time and now, he was the only one at the time who was like, are you, how, you know how sometimes we'll hear something in the media nowadays and you'll look at it and you'll be like, how is this being taken seriously? But apparently it is, right? You look around and you see everyone smiling and nodding and you're like, wait, what? Like, how this is, you guys really believe this? And that he was the only one. Everyone's like, yep, after this, there's never going to be war again. And he's like, oh, wait, what? Like, how do you even argue with that? Because it's so demented on its face that you don't even know where to start. And the scarier part is when you're hearing all your intellectual buddies being like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. And he's like, wait. The thing with war, as I'm sure most of you realize, is if you're going to get to war, you have to have pretty much unanimity that this has to happen. So the propaganda works, you know, gets everyone frothy. You get everyone worked up because you can't be like, have a big part of the population being like, is this really the right thing? Because a lot of people are going to die. And we really got to be sure we're doing the right thing before we're asking all these like hundreds of thousands of people to die. So, and Bourne is like, guys, what are you talking about? And because he was calling them on their bullshit, the left, were not having it. Because here's the thing, it's like when someone is having an affair, and sometimes the wife. Thank you for reading Super Chats live. Have you ever read The Creature from Jekyll Island? I have not. I know what it is. I've not read it. And it's like sometimes if the wife's having an affair, the husband's having an affair, sometimes the wife pretends, you know, she looks the other way, right? She's like, look, he comes home to me. It's not happening. I don't have, since it doesn't affect me, and then you sit her down, and it's like, now you can't pretend you didn't know. You can't. You can choose to let him do this, but you can't play dumb anymore. And a lot of times the wife will resent that because they had an understanding and you fucked it up for her. Here's the other thing. So Randolph Bourne is saying, you guys don't know what you're talking about. This is no way going to prevent further war. It's going to be, we do not have a dog in this fight. You guys are horrible. And this is a problem. Because it's like, wait a minute. Thank you, Rob Arrow. Because now it's like, holy shit, we can't pretend we weren't warned. And the backlash against him was furious. John Dewey, who was the leftist intellectual of his day, I don't even know who would be the equivalent today. Like, who would be like the leftist that everyone kind of genuflects before intellectually. Maybe it would have been an Obama. Maybe. I don't know. He would not work at a magazine. Like, so they were trying to launch a new magazine, and Bourne would have been promised a job, and Dewey, who was like the big name, you know, was going to work for the Dial, I think it was. And Dewey said, I will not work with him because he keeps calling me out. So even back then, they were so, even though they're posturing as, you know, we're the good guys beside the angels, they were still very, very petty, very, very vindictive. And again, this is against a 5 foot tall, deformed kid, right? And he's, you know, kept at it every month. He's like, this is fucking bullshit. And his big essay was called War and the Intellectuals, which is available online. And I got, by the way, the envelope this was in was opened by Arthur Herman, and it's going to air on December 10th. This is the issue. It's hard to read because of the color. June 1917. See that? Of 7 Arts, that has the issue of The War and the Intellectuals by Randolph Bourne. I'm a little colorblind, so the blue and orange do not work. This is only $25, but it's 100 years old, and it's in here, and it's just really cool to Eugene O'Neill. There's an essay by him, and his great quote. Ooh, this is so great. Let me just read from some of this. Holy shit, this is gold. It is a mistake to suppose that intellectuality necessarily makes for suspended judgments. The intellect craves certitude. It takes effort to keep it supple and pliable. In a time of danger and disaster, we jump desperately for some dogma to cling to. The vital myth of the League of Peace provides a dogma to jump to. Wow. So he was just vicious and correct. And what's amazing is he died in 1918 at the age of 32 because there was an influenza epidemic, and because his lungs were small because of his deformity, he died. And they found an essay, I think it was in the trash of his, called The State, which they later published, which he's best known for. And I think antiwar.com is published by the Randolph Bourne Institute. So he is really an amazing figure. He is clearly a leftist, very much a progressive. But again, he is someone who should be studied more. And his life story is very interesting. And I was really glad to have found that. And I think it's very important, and I hate using that word, that people are recognized, the ones who stood out against, who spoke out against their own, who spoke their truth. Emma Goldman's another one of this. So I am really glad that I have that. I'm really glad I know about him. And what I was saying earlier is I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was getting all, what do you enjoy about watching game playthroughs? Oh, it's a great way to veg out and have time pass with no effort. And it's like telling a visual little story. Because when you're playing a game, you have to be involved, right? You have a goal. Here, it's just it's like being a cat. You're sitting, you're watching the game. The game's pretty or visually exciting, and it's kind of fun. That's what I enjoy about it. It's a great form of passive entertainment. Much better than like many TV shows, which are stupid and terrible, and they're gonna end in half an hour. So I was with a friend of mine not that long ago, and I was getting all kind of like all deep. I don't know what the word, not deep, but whatever, introspective. And what I said, and I caught myself because I sounded so pompous. I said, I really feel like for many of these forgotten figures, like it's my job to kind of champion them. And then I heard myself, I'm like, get over yourself, asshole. And then I'm like, you know what? For many of these people, I really am the only one talking about them. So it's not a testament to the size of my audience. It's just a testament to the size that some of these people are completely forgotten. If I can do a little bit to make their legacy stay on, I think that's a good thing. And it's I think it's fun for people to learn about those who have been forgotten, who have been inspiring or interesting or so on and so forth. So that's kind of where I stand on people like Randolph Bourne and others like that. Big fan from Windsor, Ontario. Do you think Maggie really shot Mr. Burns, or was it a cover up? Well, I think she shot him. All right, so my last game suggestion wasn't well received, but this time I'm positive you'll like this game. Check out Hotline Miami. Okay, I'm not even going to click on that. I'm telling you why it's wrong. What I look for in a game when I play through is an element of not being in reality, right? So I just watched Grease, how it's pronounced, Gris, and I loved Cuphead, because you're watching it and it's not, if it's something's taking place in Miami, that's not what I want. I want to have this leaving the earth surreal atmosphere. I'm not sure if you had already spoken with Mr. Herman, which I have. We have taped this. But why is the coup against FDR that was proposed to lead by Smedley Butler so unknown? Tweet at him. Arthur has a much smaller following than me. He'll respond to you. More watching now than part of the problem live. More watching now than part of the problem live today. Maybe Dave is very failed also. Well, Dave is a very failed comedian. That's very known. Oh, Hotline Miami surreal. Let me look at it then. Okay. Let me look at it. This is not what I want. I know I like this aesthetic, this fashy wave, but it's not. This isn't. No. This isn't what I like, at all. I like it when it's pretty, and it's I don't know kind of how to describe it better. Just like a Narnia thing. You should have Dave Portnoy on You're Welcome. He's extremely petty. I do like pettiness. That's not even a question. Oh, he's got 1 million followers. I'm not gonna be able to land him. That's not gonna happen. Yeah, he's out of my reach. Guys. I'm gonna let you all in a little secret. Guys. Jason Stapleton, I would love watching an entire weekly podcast just your hipster history. It's a lot of work to do those, and I just fall into my lap. Jason Stapleton, I adore him. My interview with him when I was doing the interviews for the New Right might be my favorite one. It was so much fun, and he's going to be the guest on Tuesday. We're recording it tomorrow. I'm telling you, I already know. Don't ask, because I don't want it to get back to him. This might be the best You're Welcome in months. Like, it is going to be so good, because I have so much respect for Jason, and I know the feeling is mutual, and we have so much fun stuff planned, and he doesn't even know. And Jason, I would tell you this to your face, you don't even know what you're in for, and I promise you're going to enjoy it, and I promise even more that the audience is going to enjoy it. So you have no idea what's about to happen. It's going to be amazing. Like, I'm so happy about this, and I gotta tell you, one of the best things of hosting a show is I could ask the questions I want, which I think is really fun. But I could also think to myself, hey, thank you, Nick. I could also think to myself, Jimmy Dore or Fuentes on you're welcome. I'm booked through January, baby. I am booked. I love being able to, if I'm sitting there thinking, you know what, this would be really funny, and to actually do it. And I have done that repeatedly, and I envy, this is going to sound so obnoxious, but I mean it very, very sincerely. I envy the audience because I am a fan of this stuff, and sometimes I wish I could sit there and watch it for the first time and be like, holy shit, this is so fucking funny. This guy gives no fucks. Like, really, really looking forward to that. Okay, so I think we covered Randolph. I think we talked about the Twitter stuff. I think we're pretty good. I'm going to... Oh, tomorrow... Oh, hold on a second. Tomorrow, I'm going to this thing called Zero Space. What's it called? What's it called again? In, hold on a second. There's this immersive thing in New York, which is a pop-up. Thanks for the... Okay, hold on a second. I'm missing some of these. Would you have Michael Brooks or Sam Cedar? Sam Cedar, of course I would have. And Michael Brooks, I don't know who that is. Let me look him up. No, I don't know who he is. So, I mean, oh, he's a Bernie person, and he argues in bad faith. Why would you want? I don't know him. So that's not a commentary on him. Thanks for the sick burns, Michael. Do you follow Enjoy Capitalism on Facebook? I don't. I'm not on Facebook other than a means of my group, the Michael Malice Supporters Group, and also I just use it to put out promotional stuff. I hate Facebook, the reason I hate it is I don't have the option of seeing all the updates from all my friends. Well, fuck you. You don't get to tell me what I can and can't see, so I'm not interested in your program. Sam. What's that gif? How's it going? It's going good, Sam. Is there a backstory on the 3 questions bit? I don't think it's a backstory. I just thought it'd be funny. And I like to add as much surrealism and whimsy to my stuff as possible. You'd love Celeste. Wait, I think I have that downloaded. Is this manga style? Yeah. I don't like this manga style at all. No, that's not what I'm looking for. It's not pretty. This is like 8-bit. This is like 8-bit. No. That's not what I want. That's not what I want. Hold on a second. Let me catch up with these. Oh, okay, you guys. Oh my god, you guys. Oh my god. I'm a public school teacher. My condolences. Because of people like you and Woods, I became an anarchist. At best, I'm a good warden. Keep bashing public education. Becoming an uncle, so many of my friends have kids now. It's really changed my perspective a lot, and I am getting Helen Lovejoy. What about the children? And the fact that kids are being used as a resource by very horrible people is something that really is bothering me. So you do not have to worry about me attacking public education. Would you have communism kills on your welcome? Ashley and I follow each other. We're pals. Probably, yeah. What's your thought on Cormac McCarthy? I'm sure I would probably not like him. I feel like that old-timey era Americana, if I'm understanding him correctly, is not my deal. Didn't he... I think he's... Isn't he like... I want to make sure I'm not talking out of complete ignorance. Yeah, he does that Southern Gothic shit. I really, really, it's not my thing. The road, yeah, yeah. I really doubt I would like it. I'm sorry, Dennis. How does one join this group? Oh, it's through the Patreon. So just go to patreon.com/Michael Malice. Have you read Scott Adams' new book? I have not. So yeah, I read. What I did a few times is I read a book just based on the title, or like if a title really got to me. I in a book, I'm like, all right, let me try this, right? And I read Look Homeward Angel, Look Homeward Angel by Thomas Wolfe or Tom Wolfe, whatever it is, and I hated that book so profoundly, like just so profoundly, and it's just I think it's really fucked me up vis-a-vis books about the South, in general. So yeah. Hey Mike. Hey Mike. Thanks for streams. You ever listen to Tool? Oh my god. That's a good troll live super chat. That's a good stroll. You got me good. That's 2 for 2 in that super chat. Good lord. Good lord. Oof. God. Whew. That's that was good. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Let me see. Okay. I don't know what to do. What do you like best about the Dear Readers? This is what I like best. That's an easy. Well, there's a lot. I am very, very impressed with how intelligent and intuitive they are. And how if someone comes after me, and maybe this is me weeding out people by blocking them, how they know to not white knight for me, to either attack the person's ideas or, thank you, Chris, or egg them on and encourage them to make bigger fools of themselves. This triggers me a lot, and I had to explain them. Because people, when there's someone who I like getting attacked, I want to defend them, absolutely. And people come, you have said in the past Nietzsche is overrated. Why do you think so? Because he's a mess. So, I mean, he has a lot of brilliant ideas. He's a very big innovator, but he's all over the place. So, I think that kind of having him as this amazing thinker, he's an amazing thinker not in the context that he's presented as an amazing thinker. Nietzsche would be probably the best philosopher on Twitter because he has all these great lines and these great concepts. But in terms of being this kind of great novelist or great systemic vision, I find that lacking in him. So, like a lot of times, as you guys know, these NPCs view everyone. First of all, if you're criticizing someone on the left from their perspective, therefore you're a Trump person and therefore you're a Nazi racist, right? Like, this is their logic. It's either you're on my side or you're a Trump racist Nazi Klansman. And they will come at me. What's your favorite writing by Albert Camus? It's got to be The Myth of Sisyphus. They'll come at me. Isn't Joe Scarborough just the fakest, most repulsive person on earth, or is it just me? No, I think there's a lot of people who are far worse than him. I don't think he's even top 10. That is amazing. I don't think he's even close to top 10. So they'll come at me and they'll be like, oh, blah, blah, you fucking Nazi. And then some of my followers would very helpfully be like, actually, he's Jewish. So this person is making an ass of themselves, and you're giving them factual information to stop them from being an ass of themselves. I understand the thought process is that when you jump in and tell them this, they're going to take a second and be like, oh shit, what am I doing? They won't. And if you think about it for a second, you realize they won't. They won't be like, oh shit, I'm wrong. They will always double down because they're not in touch with reality. So don't be like, well, actually, he's Jewish. Why? You're helping them. Why are you preventing them from making asses of themselves? That's not helping me. Thank you, Max. So that's what I like is when the dear raiders, encourage them to call me a Nazi or they clown them. And this is the difference I feel between having two strategies. One is you have an audience as big as possible, and one is when you cultivate people, where you have people who are quality following you. And the quality people are the ones you want to have your back. And people have tried to defend me. I go, get the fuck out of the way. I don't need your help. I was helping you. And then they get upset. I don't want that. You can help. I don't need you to white knight for me. As a hipster, what's your biggest normie guilty pleasure? Ooh, that is tough. Is it ice cream? I don't feel guilt, though. It's probably ice cream. I'm a big ice cream. Candy. I would say candy. Have you started reading Thomas Carlyle? I know he's obviously an extremely important person on the right, the non-conservative right, or not in the American conservative sense, of course. I have not gone around to him because I'm sure it's going to be very tough to get through. And he's obviously the big advocate of the heroic model of history, and he's a very, very important figure on the right, historically. Your book pairs well with Thomas Sowell. YouTube would not let me put in the title. Was it the rednecks, the liberal rednecks? That one? So that's that. What else do I want to talk about? Did I miss any super chats? No, I have not. I'm currently reading the volume 3 of the official Margaret Thatcher biography, and it's just a lot of it's hit or miss. Is there anything else I want to cover? Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. I had all this spite funding money in escrow, basically, and I was gonna buy an autographed Langston Hughes autobiography, and someone bought it. And I don't know what I should waste that money on. It's got to be wasted. It's hard to waste money, like on things that have no utility. Let me assure you. So I don't know. We'll have to figure out what that is. It's really the spite funding. God, they get so angry and they don't understand. They're just like, what is happening? Oh, like that's the other thing. These idiots are so driven by what their immediate surroundings think of them and their fear of being debased that they think that if they call you, the dear readers, idiots, you're going to be like, oh shit. Whereas you're going to be like, who cares? Who are you? Why would I care? And they don't have anything left to do. It's really amazing. Have you seen new documentary Meeting Gorbachev? I think that's the one that Carol Markowitz recommended. And I couldn't find it. And it looked like it was going to... Is that the one where it was going to make me cry? No, it's not. This is a different one. Okay. Oh, I will look this one up. Thank you. Thank you, Martin. What does Dwight have to say? Have you read Dune? I do not like it. I do not like sci-fi. I do not like it in a boat. I do not like it in a goat. I do not like it at all. I pretend it's your retirement strategy. I'm not going to retire. Buy a gift card to a restaurant you don't like and frame it. That has utility. A gift card, I guess framing something is pretty. We could do better. Thoughts on Vox Day? I quote him extensively in The New Right. He's the one who came up with the concept of midwits, and I credit him with it all the time. He's a very bright person, and he preceded me at Bucknell. Who is the worst person you can't help but admire? Worst in what sense? Like Trump? Trump's a horrible person, I think. I admire him in many ways. Who else is a horrible person? I think that's probably my answer. It's an easy answer. Well, he's not the worst. Like, there's this worst people you can admire. Who's like really... Admire is tough, because when they get evil, it's tough to say you admire them. Who's the worst person? I'm gonna go with Trump as my short answer because he's not like hasn't killed anyone. I don't know that I'd be able to say I admire someone who's like actually actually done like real evil to someone. Hold on. Okay, that's where this goes. So that's kind of my cop out answer. 1 second. Okay. Do you invest? I just have some Ethereum and Bitcoin. Hold on a second. Here's my super chat from YouTube Red. Well, thank you, Robert, and thank you again, Martin K. Who do I admire? That's such a good question. Idea for a new book: Green Eggs and Kamala Harris. No one would buy it. She's terrible. She's down to 1%. Who do I admire? That's such a good question. Who's the worst person I admire? Huh. There aren't that many people I admire. There's lots of people I find inspirational and thought-provoking. But admire? If they're bad, I can't really admire them, right? I don't know. I think I'm going to stick with Trump. Is it Trump? I'm trying to think of like some of these Soviet people who were like just horrible, but they did good things. No, I don't have one. I don't have one at all. I feel like that's a cop-out answer, but I think it's like it might be true. Is that possible? Please talk with Tim Pool on Your Welcome. He's been on Your Welcome before when it was on Combat Media. He has an open invite to be on again whenever he's in New York. I think he does great work. It might be yourself. I don't find myself admirable. Who's the worst person that I find to be admirable? Like, who's a real scoundrel? Like, scoundrel is my brand. Who's a real scoundrel? I don't know. Is it? Yeah. Seriously, your videos, podcast appearances, books, articles, Facebook group, and Twitter have been invaluable. Thank you. Well, I would think they'd be valuable more than $5. No, it's appreciated, Philip. Thank you so much. That's very sweet of you. Thoughts on Peter Zahan? That name does not sound familiar to me. I don't know him. I felt like a gif. I do not know him. I don't know him at all. And Bradley Martin. Wait a minute. I know that book. What's that book? Hold on a second. I'm sure I've read it. Oh, that's an amazing book. Yeah, of course. Under the Loving Care of the Father Leader. I relied on it very heavily when I was writing Dear Reader. Okay. Whew, 400 people here. Don't you got thoughts on Cerno and his apparent exodus from the new right? Cerno is that burn is easily worth $10. Thank you, Philip. I don't see how Mike left the new right. Mike is one of my favorite people. He has affected my life consistently and profoundly in very many positive ways. I owe a lot to him. I will sing his praises at every opportunity I have. I think he is extremely intelligent. He is one of a handful of people where if I had an issue, I would ask him for advice and would follow his advice. If you know, like how if you have all these options in front of you and you have no idea what to do, like there are people who are like, what should I do? And they say, do this. And you're like, okay, I'm confident this is the smart decision. He's one of those. So he is a great person, in my opinion. Like this video, viewers, people with views like this who are willing to speak with interesting perspectives deserve a spotlight. Well, thank you, Medicated Child. That's very sweet of you. Do you believe in fabric softener? I don't think any guy does. Like, every guy I know thinks it's a scam. That's my thought on the subject. So, no. By the way, it was so funny when that Sawyer Hackett idiot came for me, like when I said I had fetal alcohol syndrome. And Carpe Donctum is like, Twitter, are you letting this guy target poor Michael Malice over a disability that he has no control over? It was fucking hilarious. It was absolutely fucking hilarious. Carpe, here's the other thing that's really kind of sad for me. Is a lot of times me and some of my Twitter pals would get into it. Carpe Donctum's one of them. And people will think we're actually fighting instead of busting each other's balls. And they'll try to come in and be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude, relax. We're friends. And even if we're not, just calm down. I mean, it was very, very interesting to see. And very unfortunate. Okay, I am going to head out. Well, there was this immersive thing I'm doing tomorrow. Let me tell you about it. It's called Zero Space. Some of you may have heard of it. I had not. Apparently, it's... here is my... Okay. I downloaded Shadow of the Colossus. It's not what I'm looking for, because it's a guy with a sword. And a horse. It's not at all this unrealistic or surrealistic experience. Thanks for making Twitter great again. Nightshade has been on fire the past few weeks, too. I have been having a lot of fun with that. And when I'm cracking up on that show, it is real. Because sitting there and watching Kellyanne Conway... It's funny because a lot of times I won't watch the clips before I talk about them on the air. Because I want my reactions to be fresh and not like Stephen Colbert. And it's really funny when I'll think of something to say, and then the person on the screen says it. And watching Kellyanne Conway just murder Wolf Blitzer on CNN, even though it was like half the show was this 2-minute clip, it was so much fun to watch and share that with everybody. I really, really enjoyed, and I'm having a lot of... And the other thing I have a lot of fun with doing Nightshade is covering international affairs, which have enormous relevance to ideologically and just economically and politically to America that aren't getting covered. And or if they are covered, they're going to be covered in a fucking Trump lens when they're, what's going on in Hungary is not a function of Trump. So, because I always remember sitting at home like, how do, like, so there's two scenarios. There's right-wing media, which doesn't really cover international affairs. And there's left-wing, which picks like one or two random countries that are their pet issues, like Somalia, and they talk about that, and no one else gets coverage. And I'm like, no. There's like shit going on in all these countries that is easy to explain, and is important, and is interesting, and I am in a position to do something about it, and it's a lot of fun. So, yeah, that is that. Okay. Oh, Jesus Christ. Whoa, okay. I was just about to bounce off, then I get a $100 super chat. Let's read this carefully. It's in red, too. Genuinely, Robert, here's my advice. And Dave Smith has started using this, and a few others. I don't say mainstream media. They're not mainstream. This is a fringe ideological or philosophy. They're not the norm. Do not give them that space, because that allows them to get away with their machinations and depravity. Generally, the corporate press are such unmitigated... Why'd you bleep out... Oh, are you trying to say cunty or kitty? Are such unmitigated hacks. I really don't know what that word is trying to be. I'm not trying to be mean, because I don't know what you're bleeping there. And they're not pussies. They're evil. At this stage, that I've narrowed my daily source for 100% honest news analysis down to you and Dave Smith. I do not always or even often agree with either of you. Good. Good. You shouldn't. When I do Nightshade, I have the facts, and I have what is clearly, I think clearly from my perspective, my analysis of those facts and context, but I am trying to give you the facts and information about, like, when I'm talking about these elections, I'm very heavy on giving the data and putting it in context. So I do not expect most or any of the audience to be anarchists. I just want to give people information that is missing, and funny stuff too, and history stuff. I just want well-informed and honest analysis. Well, thank you, Robert. That's very, very nice of you. It's appreciated, and I'm glad there's an audience for it. Yeah. Okay. Oh, cunty. I like cunty. Cunty means bitchy. It's funny. I'm cunty. They're not cunty. Cunty is a good thing. It's just oh, really? That's cunty. So that's definitely a word that should not be used in a pejorative sense. It's something to aspire. See above. Yeah. So it's they're and what I'm really excited about is here's something I'm really excited about is that I am the one, or one of the most important ones, to show to conservatives. This, by the way, the Arthur Herman episode is very heavily about this. The conservative, I've said this many times, I'll say it again. It needs to be said until I'm blue in the face, and I'm a little red in the face right now. The conservative ideology and worldview, and this is not inherently right or inherently wrong, this is an aspect of conservative psychology, is things used to be good, and now they've gotten a bit worse. That is, broadly speaking, the conservative worldview. And oftentimes that's correct. Oftentimes that's not incorrect. It's an emotional approach to culture and reality. So, in my day, blah, 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 right? Broadly speaking. And because of this, conservatives tend to think things like, all right, the media used to be honest, and now they're all fucked up. On the one hand, you're also going to perceive that. No, see my regular post YouTube above. Wait, hold on. Yeah, YouTube won't let me post the cunty word. Yeah, I got you. The other thing is when you think that the media was more honest earlier because you were young earlier. So when you're 14, you're not thinking in terms of Amy Rohrbach and Jeffrey Epstein. You're la la la. Oh yeah, okay, you were taught in school. You don't think in these terms. And later, when you have data, and you could be like, wait a minute, a monster toasted the Troll King. I'm off the monster, Zach. You're fired. And now you get older, and you're like, wait a minute. 5 years ago, you said the exact opposite. And then, once you're my age, ancient, you're like, holy shit, whoa. What the fuck's going on here? And then you're like, oh, wow. But the thing that I talk about with Arthur Herman and I talk about constantly is they have been very, very evil for a very long time. And I'm not using the word evil in the sense of left, which I do not think leftism is inherently evil at all. I mean evil in terms of beating the war drums. That evil in terms of more war, and destroying people who are like, are we sure this war is a good idea? That to me is evil. And there is an increasing realization among conservatives, and this is partly due to me, or largely due to me, and I'm shocked and delighted at how receptive they are, that no, because I'm bringing the receipts. that I'm like, no, this has been going on since the 30s. And then they're like, oh. Because one of the best aspects to me of conservative thought is the understanding, just wanted to contribute, keep up, thank you, Addison, is the understanding that there is true evil in the world. That there are people who knowingly, consciously, and intentionally do the wrong thing. And they don't even do it for like, oh, they're just going to get rich, right? We could wrap our heads around that. They do the wrong thing for no reason. Like, that's what real depravity is. And when you see that, and again, as a, I think conservatives, and also someone tweeted at me, I think Thursday or yesterday, they said, how is it that only my friends from Eastern Europe, like, realize what's going on? And I think, again, part of the reason I wrote Dear Reader is so people can appreciate how self-righteous evil is, how what humans are capable of doing to other humans and boasting about. And, Americans, I forget who I had this conversation with. I hate that this word I'm not saying this to be insulting. Americans are often naive because Americans often think they have no idea of how bad people can get. Slavery was a very long time ago. Jim Crow was bad. But even that is nothing compared to totalitarianism. So, having the realization like, oh, these people are really... It's not even that they're putting forth evil views. They are doing whatever they can to destroy those who are preaching the good. I mean, the layers of it. And again, that the conservatives are being like, oh, shit. So... What's also funny to me is I have made the case, any chance for a troll stroll now that everything is dying outside. It's kind of cold in New York, but yeah, I'll do it. Why not? If you guys think it's fun. It's funny to me how a lot of times conservatives, in my view, don't understand where culture comes from, right? They have gotten to the point, the right wing at least has, the new right, that you don't play politics on the left's playing field because you're starting out like on the whatever the bad football metaphor is, right? You don't do that. You're going to lose every time. You have to play on your terms, or at the very least a level playing field. So you don't take what they present. So if the realization of the new right is, if the left is yelling at you, you're opposed to Obamacare because you're racist. The answer isn't getting on defensive and being like, well, I'm not racist. It's fuck you and go fuck yourself. That's the response. I'm not engaging this conversation on your bullshit terms, right? So the same people who recognize that this is bullshit when it comes to politics also are falling for it when it comes to culture. Because the right, psychologically, are broadly speaking, culturally incurious. There's an asymmetry. People who are culturally curious, whatever sense that means, will tend to be drawn toward leftism. That's what leftism often means, is seeking the new as opposed to being comfortable with the old. That's a very good distinction between right and left. And they will take the left's view of culture at face value as well, even though they know not to do this with politics. And that's why I wrote that piece for The Federalist this week, 10 books every conservative should read, not because you need to be an advocate of African American rights, but you need to know that when you are being told that progressives have historically always been fighting for black people, that they are lying, that often they don't know that they're lying, and you are letting themselves position themselves as historical champions, and then you have to smile and nod and be like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. Or you have to just be bizarro and do the opposite of what they're saying, in which case you're still fighting in their terms. So these are just something that I think my next kind of phase of what I'm going to be fighting for is having conservatives realize how much of American cultural history is they're doing the same thing as they are in politics. And with regard to culture. So, oof. Okay. Let me think about this. I am going to... Let me just check one thing quick. Robert, thank you for that super chat. I was going to bounce earlier. I hope you got your money's worth from me flapping my gums and my bullshit. It's funny. People sometimes, and I know they're tongue-in-cheek, they're like, oh, please don't stop going hard on Twitter. I absolutely promise I'm not going to stop going hard on Twitter. It's this I promise you. It's one of the most fun things I have, and I do. And I got it. The support is enormously appreciated, and yeah. Okay, I will talk to y'all soon. Hope you all had fun. Thank you all for the support. It is... If I didn't have the support, I couldn't do it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm so appreciative that we have this internet culture where people are like, all right, I'll buy this guy a monster. And then that allows him to be tweeting and making asses of these horrible, evil people. So it's very, very appreciated, not at all expected. So I feel very blessed, and I say this with all sincerity. Okay, I will talk to you all soon. Hope you had fun. Seacrest out.